Hi, I'm Joette from the Bowdabra design team, and today we're going to be making a beautiful giant trending crepe paper flower. These giant beauties are perfect wedding and party decor and go great on backdrops. Unroll the crepe paper, fold it in half, measure 8 inches, and cut it. Then fold that cut piece in half, making sure to keep the grain of the crepe paper vertical. I pinned a pattern to mine. You can freehand this as well. I wouldn't recommend cutting more than 2 sheets at a time folded in half because it's very thick. This is Italian crepe paper. Once your petals are cut, scrunch that center at the base, give it a twist and get both those pretty sides facing upwards. You can stagger it by making one side shorter than the other, or you can actually make them both the same length. If I had to do this all over again, I would make the bottom row that we're working on right now all the same length. And I would do this procedure for the top half of this project. We're going to be making 4 double petals for the bottom of this flower, and we're going to make 6 for the top half of it. We could put them all in the Bowdabra, but I wouldn't be able to give them any direction and control them. So I'm going to separate them by layers. All right, so here's a recap. You're going to gather your petals at the bottom, flip that one side over, get both shiny sides up, and just pinch the bottom to keep it together. Lay it aside, and then we're going to put them all in the Bowdabra as we get them made. We need our Bowdabra Bow Wire, and we're going to just place those petals down. I'm going to start out doing 2 at a time. And then I will start stretching this crepe paper and forming a flower. You want to form cups in the paper. First, I stretch both pieces together, both petals, and then I open it up. I stretch the bottom, and then I'll stretch the top again. And being white on the back side, I couldn't find a solid color. I'm going to turn my petals downwards to hide that white. If I was selling these, I would have actually spray painted the back with a metallic gold or something so it wouldn't bother me. But we're going to face them down. Just keep pulling, tugging until you get a cup shape. You don't want to work them too much at this point. You'll have to do it a couple of more times throughout the project. Once you get a shape going on the first 2 petals, go ahead and start adding the next 2. I pushed each petal slightly to the side so I could place one down, and that gave me a nice layering for these petals. All right, so now we have all 4 of the bottom layer petals in place. Like I said earlier, if I had to do this all over again, I would have made this layer the same length. I'll know next time. This is an experiment to see if I could actually make it in the Bowdabra. The written instructions on the Bowdabra blog is going to tell you to make that bottom layer of petals all the same length. All right, the bottom layer is done. We're going to pull it out of the Bowdabra with our Bowdabra Bow Wire nice and tight with that slip knot, and we're going to start fluffing just a little more. Be sure to leave the excess Bowdabra Bow Wire on your petals so you can tie the 2 layers together. Here's a procedure where you crimp the ends of the petals to make them have a more realistic, ruffly look. You hold one piece of your crepe paper between your thumb and index finger, and you're pulling with the other, and it gives it a little ripple effect. Again, I'm going around this piece to make sure everything is facing downwards so the white side doesn't show. If both sides had color like I would have preferred, then you can actually just make sure you have a cup shape in your flower petals, but you can pull them forward or downward. It doesn't matter if both sides are colored. And this is what the bottom side should look like. It's time to go to our top layer already in progress. We used 4 double petals for the bottom layer, and the top layer we're going to be using 6. You could actually make your entire flower like this if you didn't need the fullness. I noticed it was very easy to control 6 double petals in the Bowdabra. I personally wouldn't recommend using any more than 6 at a time. If you need more fullness than the 6, do it like this in a layered process. And now it's really time to get down to business with that fluffing and shaping and cupping and making your flower come to life. Because we're about to attach the 2 layers together. Find some open sections in your petals and thread the Bowdabra wire from the top to the bottom layer and tie them together nice and tight. Although it's not necessary at this point, but you're going to find it hard not to want to fluff and shape a little more. Now we're going to be working with regular crepe paper. We're going to make 3 little poofs to go in the center around the stamen we make. I cut a half a pack of orange in half, and it was about 3 inches wide folded up in the package, and I just left it that way. I kept the grain of the crepe paper going vertical as well on these small tiny little filler center petals. You want to pin the pattern where the bottom half is going to be folded, so when you unfold, all your little petals will still be attached. As you can see, we've switched to the mini Bowdabra for this step. I'm going to clean these little petals up because my scissors are not very good anymore, and we're going to put our Bowdabra wire into our little mini Bowdabra, fold it in half, tuck it under, open our little petals and start placing them down in the mini Bowdabra. On this step with these petals, I did put one side in shorter than the other because when you fold them in half and place them around the stamen like we're going to do, it will take away some of the length on one side, so it balanced it out by making one side shorter than the other. We're going to need a total of 3 of these little petal poofs we're making, so you're going to want to cut this out 6 times. Once you have all your little mini petals in your mini Bowdabra, smash it down real good with that Bowdabra wand, tie it up nice and tight with the Bowdabra wire, pull it out and give it a little bit of a fluffing. Since we've switched and started working with the regular crepe paper, I wouldn't try to shape this into cups. It'll tear real easy. I just swatted my hand across it a couple of times and gave it a fluff that way. And once you have 3 of these, we're going to start making the little yellow stamen. Once again, I left the paper folded just like it was when I pulled it out of the package, and I just started making little fringe cuts all the way down it. This is the whole pack I'm cutting, and I ended up not needing the whole entire piece, so you could double it or do a single like I did. I split it in half and I just set one aside for another flower another time. I was okay with how the stamen looked with one layer. Now we've switched back to the large Bowdabra. My Bowdabra wire is in there. I'm running the fringed cut stamen piece down in the Bowdabra scrunchy bow style. I'm going to use my Bowdabra wand, smash it down in there, and tie it up nice and tight with my Bowdabra wire. If you wanted your center to be larger, now's the time to add that second piece. But we're going to go ahead and tie it up with one, nice and tight with that Bowdabra wire, and we're going to place it into our flower. There's a couple of different ways we can attach our stamen center to the inside of our flower. First, we can do it the same way as we did the layers. We can thread that Bowdabra wire through some sections and tie it all the way around to the back, or we can hot glue it. I'm going to go ahead and tie this one, and I'm going to add a drop of hot glue as well. I know I keep saying get that wire nice and tight, but it is very important to get this nice and tight. You don't want it flopping around. And the center is in. Look how cute. We're going to add a dab of hot glue behind this just for some extra security. And we're going to tie those little petals in. You could actually leave it like this if you wanted to. We made 3 of these tiny petal poofs, and I'm going to arrange them around in a circle. I tried using 2, but it just looked too incomplete, so I added a 3rd to complete that circle. You could hot glue these in as well, but I'm going to go ahead and tie them because everything seems really sturdy. You want to go ahead and start clipping the excess Bowdabra wire ends at this point because they'll show. I left the wires exposed on the back side in case we needed a way to hang our flower. But if it was being glued or something, you would go ahead and snip them off. Sometimes it's better to be safe than sorry. We're almost done. We have one more piece to attach and then we'll be ready for one last fluffing and shaping. And there you have it, folks. Bowdabra's version of the trending giant crepe paper flower.